Well, the Marlene Dixon case was the spark that ignited the administration building sit-in without representing one of the deeper causes of the unrest that made that whole thing and that whole situation possible. But she was an assistant professor where the question was that of renewing her for a second term as assistant professor, and she had received a joint appointment. She came without her PhD finished. She still had her PhD to finish when she was here, and coming from a very different kind of background and set of expectations about the academic world more generally. In any case, it was alleged that she had not been reappointed on the grounds of being a woman, of being a radical in sociology, and being a radical in politics, and a radical feminist. And so we were charged with looking into the question as to whether inappropriate considerations had played a role in this consideration of reappointment. And because it was a woman, obviously Edward Levy decided he'd better have a woman chairman, and that was me. And we came to the conclusion there had not been inappropriate considerations, and to the conclusion that her scholarship was not of the quality that would have led to a future here at the university, and that it was better for that to be assessed now rather than at some later point. Well, what I found of particular interest in this, I think, was that the process of dealing with a very complex set of issues, talking with a lot of different people and getting different views and beginning to build a picture of how certain things had happened and what the situation really was, I found, intellectually interesting as well. And it happened to be a time, 1969, 1970 then, when there was beginning to be more of a concern about women in the academic world. People were looking for women to fill roles, I think. And I had done very minor administrative things before, but I just found the process interesting and not that different from teaching, in the sense that the best parts of administrative work are, I think, precisely those where you are trying to untangle or to cope with complicated issues and to explain them, and to be able to have others understand and others help you to understand the complexities that you are dealing with. And to be able to explicate all that in the end is in its way like teaching. It's not so different from teaching. And secondly, I was moved by the fact that Edward Levy had really, I thought, made a very productive use of a difficult and critical situation in making it also an occasion for thinking deeply about the nature and purpose of universities, what they're for, what they require in the way of conditions like the condition of academic freedom and so forth. And it seemed to me that if you were any good at that kind of process of dealing with problems and of explicating, and you cared about universities and their purposes and wanted them to be strong, that was a kind of mission that I could find of value. So all those things came together a little bit when I was then asked. I was surprised to be asked, but I was asked to be dean of the College of Arts and Sciences at Northwestern. It meant not, in fact, having to move except to Evanston. And my husband was here, as always. And so I went, and I thought if I didn't do well at it or didn't like it, it was a great department to be a member of, because I was also a professor of history there and also did some teaching. And I turned out to like it. I was partly surprised. I really was surprised. But it was also that both of us, who were then at Yale, both of us, in thinking about it, found that we were ready to go back to Chicago and to this institution in particular, that the kind of teaching we did here, the kind of sense of the university and its focus, its clarity of mission, its clarity of purpose, its knowing what the real priorities of the academic life should be, we felt were right for us, as well as the sort of freedom that the university gives its faculty to do different things and try out different things and to move among various faculties and to find intellectual collaborations easily across the university. All of that appealed to us very much. So it wasn't so much a not liking Yale, which we liked very much, but loving Chicago and deciding that we would like to spend the rest of our lives here indeed. And so we came back.